I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. In this world, there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate. We think too much and feel too little. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness. Without these qualities, life will be violent, and all will be lost. All will be lost. Do not despair. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die. Dictators die. And the power they took from the people will return to the people. Will return to the people. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world to do away with greed. Now let us fight to free the world, to fulfill that promise. Let us all unite.
Welcome, folks, to the Corporation Nation radio program. I'm Clint, your host, and it is April 15th, 2014. It is the day of the first blood moon. Well, yeah, kind of went with that incident from what I understand. Although I do hear there's a few reports of strange things happening. Someone even said the sun came up in the wrong place today. Whatever. Let's focus on, I suppose, reality. Let's go back to our protocols. I kind of got sidetracked yesterday talking about the reality of the BLM and the understanding that the lands of the states were not exactly given to the people when those states were created. In fact, they were lucky if they got 10 or 11% of the land within the state when it was created, and then, of course, the rest was given to the unappropriated lands given to government according to a vote of the people. Well, when we left off on our protocols last Friday, the last one we read was a very important one. Now, the original translation, and I'm actually going to be reading the what they call the modern English translation, just because it's a little more, I guess, fun. So the original on this, number 19, under Protocol 1, says, only one trained from childhood for independent rule can have understanding of the words that can be made up of the political alphabet. Well, it's taken me years to start to understand the political alphabet. It's taken me, it's literally, I have had to completely give up everything I thought I knew and focus on the politics and legals and financials and everything else with a completely open mind that anything is possible, because it turns out really anything is possible when it comes to the legal language. So again, when we translate that into the conversational language, only someone trained from childhood to serve as a leader can truly understand politics. And of course, understanding politics, means that you believe, or you're taught to believe, that the rest of the people are blind, senseless, and have no ability to reason. That they can get suckered. And it's unfortunately a true statement about, quote unquote, most white folks out there, most Germanics. We are gullible. We are a gullible people. We put too much trust on the nature of the natural, stance of a man, and we get into trouble quite often that way. We trust the contracts. We don't read them before we sign them. We do all kinds of really stupid things when you think about it. We are a gullible people. We are, and that's why we're called Goyim, because we're gullible enough to accept the person, to accept the straw man, if you will, the Gentile. And that's where we are today. It goes on to say people left to look after themselves will be brought to ruin. That's because their leaders who emerge from among them are only interested in power and glory. It is possible for these people to put aside their self-interests, is it possible for these people to put aside their self-interests and manage the affairs of their nation? Well, that's a good question. I haven't met any. So instead, we have a self-interested race, if you will. It's not really a race, but it's a self-identifying trait called Zionism, called Jew, and that's who rules us. So, can they defend themselves from an external army? Well, depends, I guess, how big that army is, but yeah, pretty much no. When a project of that scale is divided up among the many dim-witted members of their society, it becomes unintelligible to them. And, of course, as we discussed, we are an unorganized group of people. Gotta give them kudos for pointing that out. When an organized group, no matter how small, is up against an unorganized group, no matter how big, chances are the organized group is going to win in their own way, clandestinely, through many different means, which is kind of why we're reading this. Goes on in Protocol 1 to say, we are despots. Only a despotic ruler can effectively carry out large operations and distribute all the necessary resources to the various departments so that important plans can be executed. From this, we conclude that the most effective government is one that concentrates all its power in the hands of a single responsible person. Well, we were fooled into doing that. Without absolute despotism, there is no way to guide the masses, and civilization will fall apart. They are savage barbarians and behave like that at every opportunity. Remember, this is the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion. When we're talking about Zion or Zionism, again, we're talking about that building up that third temple, Ezekiel's temple, and we're talking about a very, very ancient concept with the Seal of Solomon, which is the six-pointed star. The Star of David is also called, but really, it's the Seal of Solomon, Solomon's temple. It's all over Jerusalem. The kingdom of Jerusalem. It's not Israel. Israel is just a political piece of paper. Again, it's a state. It means absolutely nothing. That area over there, why Zionism is so interested in that is because it's the kingdom of Jerusalem. It is Jerusalem, the old English claim on that land. Royal claim, if you will. Without absolute despotism, there is no way to guide the masses, and civilization will fall apart. They are savage barbarians and behave like that at every opportunity. The moment the people gain freedom, it quickly turns into anarchy, which is just savagery. You know what they're talking about there? They're talking about the law of nature. They're talking about people who are actually taking care of themselves, self-governing, and being responsible. That is savagery. You see, it's uncivilized. It's not according to the civil law, therefore it is uncivilized. Notice that when people are given freedom, they use it to drink themselves senseless and behave like animals. We ourselves should avoid behaving like that. Goyim are always drinking alcohol or thinking about doing so. We caused this to happen. Oh, really? We caused this to happen by using our many agents to promote it as part of their culture. It increases immorality and makes their youth stupid. Now, they're not lying. Got to give them that. I mean, they're telling the truth. We have agents placed everywhere, occupying many positions throughout society, such as tutors, lackeys, governesses, in the houses of the wealthy, by clerks and others. We also have a lot of women agents acting as prostitutes who assist in the corruption process. Oh, wonderful. Corporation Nation, we are reading the Protocols of Learned Elders of Zion today, and I'm going to switch over actually to the original one. It's fun to read that other one, but it's a bit immature at some point, so I think I'm going to switch back over. But to give you an example, here's the original of what I just read. Behold, the alcoholic animals be amused with drink, the right to an immoderate use of which comes along with freedom. It is not for us and ours to walk that road. The right to an immoderate use of which comes along with freedom. Wow. These kind of statements used to just go right by me. I would not know what to think of them. I wouldn't be able to translate them. The right to an immoderate use of alcohol comes along with freedom. In other words, you're not free to drink alcohol. It's you have to follow the law. You're allowed to by these people who make it. You know who the Bronfmans are with Seagrams. They want you to have it. It's not a freedom per se. It's not a privilege as much as it is a way to mess you up. Cigarettes, everything you're addicted to. Oh, they love us. The peoples of the Goyim are bemused with alcoholic liquors. Their youth grown stupid on the classroom and from early immorality, into which it has been inducted by our special agents, by tutors, lackeys, governesses, in the houses of the wealthy, by clerks and others, by our women in the places of dissipation frequented by the Goyim. And the number of these last I count also the so-called society ladies, voluntary followers of the others in corruption and luxury. Our countersign is force and make-believe. Only force conquers in political affairs. Oh boy, we've talked about that. Especially if it be concealed in the talents essential to statesmen. What's that saying? That means you have to be a really good liar and pretend like you're an idiot to be a good politician. Oh, I don't know anything about this being a military-occupied country. All I know is that we get a vote. We're voters, and we are free. We have freedom. Hallelujah. Yeah. Violence must be the principle. Oh, God, it hurts. Violence must be the principle, and cunning and make-believe the rule for governments which do not want to lay down their crowns at the feet of agents of some new power. Yep. Again, very true statements. This evil is the one and only means to attain the end, the good. Therefore, we must not stop at bribery, deceit, and treachery when they should serve towards the attainment of our end. No. As government, as the leaders of the Goyim, we bribery, deceit, and treachery are all the rage. I mean, to attain our end, we must use those tools. We must be evil, and we must use violence. It's what you're seeing right now, every day. It's what your children are doing when they join the military. They're being violent against you. And everyone else. In politics, one must know how to seize the property of others without hesitation if by it we secure submission and sovereignty. Folks, we must know how to seize the property of others. Boy, I see this firsthand. On a daily, weekly basis, the eminent domain here is rampant in Utah. Number 24, our state What is our state? What are they talking about when they say our state? They don't have a state. What state are they talking about? Our state marching along the path of peaceful conquest. Peaceful conquest has the right to replace the horrors of war by less noticeable and more satisfactory sentences of death necessary to maintain the terror which tends to produce blind submission. My God. I mean, every sentence is a new and more horrific, honest description of exactly what's happening. Peaceful conquest. Replacing the horrors of war by less noticeable and more satisfactory sentences of death. You remember when we read the report from Iron Mountain, how it was so necessary to have public executions like the Boston bombing and school shootings and all that. In order to keep the peace, you must have this type of warlike death. There must always be a threat. Well, that's what they're talking about. They're very satisfactory, because after you see the public execution, and it's very necessary, according to the report from Iron Mountain, for people to see it, then you have weeks and weeks of candle lighting and everything else. And people feel somehow vindicated. And the terror persists. And the blind submission, just as they say, is there. Just but merciless severity. Just, in other words, the justice system of the Bar Association, just but merciless severity is the greatest factor of strength in the state. Not only for the sake of gain, but also in the name of duty. For the sake of victory, we must keep to the program of violence and make believe. Folks, it's describing your school shootings right here. There it is. Violence and make-believe. Make-believe violence. The doctrine of squaring amounts is precisely as strong as the means of which it makes use. Squaring accounts, is precisely as strong as the means of which it makes use. Therefore, it is not so much by the means themselves as by the doctrine of severity that we shall triumph, that bring all governments into subjection to our super government. Now they're talking about world government. It is enough for them to know, and by them, I think they mean Goyim. It is enough for the Goyim to know that we are too merciless for all disobedience to cease. Goes on to say, we shall end liberty. Still in the number 1 protocol. We shall end liberty. Now, if you recall, last week I believe we discussed what the word liberty actually means. And of course it does, kind of like the word freedom, very, very mixed up about our words. Liberty, we don't have liberty in the way that we contemplate it, the way that we've been taught what liberty is. No. Just like freedom, we have political liberty, civil liberty, but we don't have natural or independent separate liberty from government. No, slaves have liberties. Slaves have freedoms. I mean, the only difference is that we don't technically call ourselves slaves. 25 says, far back in ancient times, we were the first to cry among the masses of the people the words liberty, equality, fraternity. Very Masonic. Words many times repeated since these days by stupid poll parrots who, from all sides around, flew down upon these baits and with them carried away the well-being of the world. True freedom of the individual, formerly so well guarded against the pressure of the mob. Not anymore. Oh, we'll be back, folks. Stay tuned. We shall end liberty. It's a lofty goal. Corporation Nation. Now I switch back over to the modern English version here because it's actually better in this regard, or at least more modern. Far back in ancient times, we were the first to stand among crowds of people and cry out the words liberty, equality, fraternity. The people fell for our bait. Listen to this. They picked up those words and started repeating them parrot-like throughout the world. As a result, they have taken away the well-being of the world and the true freedom of the individual. In other words, the natural freedom. Natural being of no government, being of nature or God, which was formerly well protected from mob pressure. The so-called wise men of the Goyim, the intellectuals, could not make anything out of these words. They just cannot see that in nature there is no equality or freedom. Boy, if we hit that topic hard here. Again, in nature there is no equality or freedom. Those are political terms. Remember, there's only equity. So that nature herself has established inequity of minds, characters, and capacities. In other words, men are not born equal. No man is alike. No woman is alike. No cow is alike. We like to call them people. We like to call them cattle. But each one is unique and individual. And again, nature herself has established inequity of minds, characters, and capacities. Again, these people, the reason I'm so fascinated with these protocols is that they are not telling untruths. They're being very honest. Very, very honest. Some for the good, some for the very, very bad. Goes on, they never stop to consider that the mob is a blind thing, and as such can only elect leaders that must be as blind as the mob itself. So, in other words, they hire or vote for the greatest parrot. Liberty, freedom, hail the flag, pledge allegiance, take an oath. The mob is blind, and so they only elect leaders that must be as blind and patriotic about their blindness as the mob itself. Very honest. And even if the mob does manage to find someone intelligent, that person wouldn't understand politics, as pointed out earlier. Because what did they say earlier? Well, it says, Goyim don't take any of this into consideration. Why would a person with some intelligence who could figure out this, why would that person not be good in politics? Because you have to be deceitful in politics. They told you. You have to grow up in a deceitful family of non-goyim to be a politician. You must be trained from birth to be deceitful. That's what they're saying. If you find intelligence in someone, they're not going to want to be a part of the corruption. That's why none of us good people will ever get into politics. You really can't. The only way you can get into politics is to basically give up on your morals and values. That's really the only way. Thanks to dumb libertarians, I agree, the words liberty, equality, fraternity have spread to all corners of the earth. These words installed peace, quiet, and solidarity throughout all Goyim of the earth, and thus weakened their strength. Totally true. I mean, just totally true. In other words, joining a political party and expecting and putting your faith in one man, such as Ron Paul, is what makes you weak. You're not standing up for yourself. Again, they're just telling you the truth here. As you will see later, this helped us to our victory. It gave us the possibility of getting our hands on the master stroke, the destruction of privileges and power of their royalty. The royal class was the only defense the Goyim had against us. On the ruins of the eternal and hair-based aristocracy of the Goyim, we have set up their aristocracy of our educated class, headed by the aristocracy of money. The entry qualifications to this aristocracy are based on wealth, which is dependent upon us, in other words, us bankers, and on knowledge, which also comes from us, especially from our learned elders who have provided much inspiration. Our victory has been made easier by the fact that whenever we sought favors from men and power, we always appealed to their most basic of desires, like cash money and all kinds of material goodies. Well, they already talked about gold. That's a material goodie. Even one human weakness is often enough to pass control of these men over to those offering the bribes. Ooh, powerful statement. Even one human weakness is often enough to pass control of these men over to those offering the bribes. The concept of freedom has enabled us to convince the people of all countries that their government is a servant of the people, that the people are the true owners of the country, and that the servant can be replaced like a worn-out glove. The possibility of replacing the representatives of the people gives us the power to appoint a new government. My God, folks, I mean, right there, he's telling you that your whole belief in this political process, your participation in voting and in giving up all of your rights to your representatives, that was their idea. They have literally set up a belief system, a religion, if you will, called patriotism. And it's the concept that just replacing the representative is somehow going to fix something. And of course, they just put in their own representative and pretend like it's an elected official. They pretend not to that the voting on Diebold voting machines is not rigged. Enough people believe it. But there again, it covers this word freedom, the concept of freedom. It's a concept. And we conceptualize it completely incorrectly. Because we truly believe the word freedom means free, to be free. And they know, and they say it's enabled them to convince people of all countries that their government is a servant of the people. Because they believe that they are free simply because their government tells them they have freedom. But remember, freedom means you must obey the government's laws. So the concept of freedom has literally destroyed the free nature of people. And we believe that government is of the people, by the people, for the people, that our government officials, our elected officials, are actually servants of the people, when in truth they are the people. There are no more people with a political voice because the representative becomes the voice of the people. And yet people still believe they're free. They even tease us that we believe we are the true owners of the country. I mean, like I said, at least they're honest. I mean, at least they're pathetic picture of a man holding up a sign with no organization whatsoever. You see a protester after the worldwide Zionist Congress declared a worldwide boycott on Germany. Who started the war? Yeah. Also on my blog, there's an excerpt from the Jewish Declaration of War on Nazi Germany, the economic boycott of 1933 from the Barnes Review. Very, very well worth the read. But this is all in Zionism 101. And also there is the original transfer agreement, but it's actually in German. If you know German, you can read that. Pretty messed up stuff. It really is. Let's go to the phones. Let's take Glenn in Philly. Welcome to the show, Glenn. Do we have Glenn? We lost Glenn. Oh, well. It happens. It happens. Gosh, so much information, so little time. I don't know if something else on my blog is the case of the Diary of Anne Frank, which laughably portions of it were written with a ballpoint pen, which didn't exist at the time of Anne Frank, supposedly. More importantly, it was actually a case in court where someone actually proved that it was actually just a script for a play written by a script writer. And that's actually a court record. Also, you see that the so-called lampshades that were made out of skin didn't exist. Most Jewish scholars have come out and admitted that was just a scare tactic. We lied, basically. So sorry. Oh, man. President Richard Nixon said in 1971, the White House tapes released by the National Archives, where he proceeded to follow and get on his knees and beg forgiveness from his Jewish keepers. The only two non-Jews in the communist conspiracy were Chambers and Hiss. Every other one was a Jew, and it raised hell with us. That's right, him and, the preacher, I can't remember. But it was really pathetic when, I can't think of the preacher's name, when he, their recordings were caught on tape, and then they had to basically fall on their knees and beg forgiveness from the Jewish community so that they could continue to prosper in their Christian community. Really, really pathetic. Folks, I guess the point here, as we read these protocols and the plan is set out before you, everything that's happened, everything that is happening, and everything that's going to happen. I don't know. Is there a point? Can we do anything about it? Are we just a lonely German standing outside of a Jewish store after a worldwide boycott holding up a sign? I mean, that's kind of the perfect symbol for us Americans. Us Germanic Americans, especially. Oh, very, very sad to see my people suffering so because of their lack of knowledge on this stuff. The protocols go on to say that we will highlight the differences of wealth between the rich and the poor. The emotions of envy and hatred, which will then arise in the poor, due to their want of that same wealth. They want to become one of the rich, will be whipped into a mob frenzy. Through their hands, we shall wipe out all those who hinder us on our way. When the hour strikes for our sovereign Lord of the entire world to be crowned, it is these same hands which will sweep away everything that might be a hindrance to that. Now, remember, that sovereign to be crowned, I don't believe it's going to be crowned until we have our third temple, our Ezekiel's temple, which they're planning on building there over the holy Muslim site. And if it causes World War III, no problem. And the Goyim have lost the habit of thinking, unless prompted by the suggestions of our specialists. In other words, we don't think for ourselves. Pretty basic. Therefore, they do not see the urgent necessity of what we, when our kingdom comes, shall adopt at once. Namely, that it is essential to teach in national schools one simple, true piece of knowledge, the basis of all knowledge, and the knowledge of the structure of human life, which is that social existence requires division of labor, and consequently the division of men into classes and conditions. It is essential for all to know that owing to differences in the occupations of humans, there cannot be any equality among them. Someone that commits an act that compromises a whole class cannot be held as equally responsible before the law as compared to someone who affects only himself. The true knowledge of the structure of society, secrets which we keep from the Goyim, would reveal that positions of work must correspond with the education that was given to a worker. Otherwise, they might suffer. After a thorough study of this knowledge, people will voluntarily submit to authority and accept whatever position is given to them in the state. Welcome to the state, my voluntary submitters and subjects. The people blindly believe what they read in print. And given their present state of ignorance, they possess a sense of blind hatred toward anyone who has more wealth or lives in better condition than themselves. They have no understanding of the purpose of social classes. Social classes, such a wonderful thing. Well, folks, that brings us to the end of today. Join me tomorrow for Daniel. Take care.